Despite its history, diversity, and potential, the borough of Staten Island currently suffers from a lack of centralized development. The island is missing a cohesive organization with a largely random placement of businesses, underdevelopment of commercial structures, and no true downtown area. This condition is known as urban sprawl, and the reason may lie in the way it is zoned. Unlike the rest of New York City, Staten Island does not contain much commercial zoning. Most of the metro area has about 1/3 of total land zoned for commercial purposes, yet all three zones on the island have less than 10%. This means developers are not allowed to build for commercial purposes on over 90% of the island. Despite witnessing a 24% population growth between 1990 and 2010, Staten Island still has less than 3% of all private sector jobs in the NYC area. Most of these are jobs in the service sector. There is an undeniable appeal in the amount of open space within Staten Island, but smart urban planning would not compromise this. Intelligent city development would compress developed areas, allowing for more pedestrian travel, especially around train stations.
If you ask somebody who's on Staten Island what is there to do on the weekend or what is there for children to do, basically everybody stays in their own development, that has pools and tennis courts or what have you, and they go to the zoo, and that used to be a big deal years ago, but not anymore. Now everybody goes to other boroughs.
Susan Frazier, an agent with realestatesiny.com, has also seen issues in the community when it comes to the lack of activity hubs.
All these shopping centers, they're basically just shopping centers. We need to find a place on the island so that people will stay here and put more money, into the island, and we can generate more money from that and keep people from spending money going elsewhere. We need to spend our money in Staten Island to build it up again, especially after Storm Sandy. A lot of people are looking elsewhere. They're moving. People don't want to build anymore. And, we need to entice people to stay here.
Staten Island is zoned much differently because a good deal of its infrastructure was not in place prior to most of the booms that you find in them, today.
Anthony Licciardello, the co-owner of realestatesiny.com, is a lifetime Staten Island resident and keeps up to date on local zoning. According to him, the random planning in the area has been an issue for a long time.
The mixed-use components are much different. We have very rare cases of mixed-use residential commercial development, which again is part of the larger problem of what we face.
Mixed-use developments include residential units and businesses that neighborhood dwellers need. Tenants need not go far for grocery shopping or coffee, for instance.
It's that mixed-use development that's going to support the commercial businesses that sit underneath the residential. That's what you see in Brooklyn, that's what you see in Manhattan, that's what you see in many parts of Queens. I think people are under the impression that Staten Island is like this sleepy small town community. However, when you have 450,000, now approaching even over 500,000 people, this is a major city by most people's standards. Yet when you look at the development, it's largely all residential with not much more than a 3-story commercial building existing anywhere. Okay, we're in the town of Annadale. And one of the things about these typical town centers that you see around Staten Island is they were meant for a time when Staten Island was pretty much just small, little communities. There wasn't much sprawl. People would come from, just outside the town to come in and really go over to different stores for whatever they needed locally.
A development on Enview Street serves as an example of ideal zoning.
These townhouses typically get over $400,000 to $425,000, which is more typical of a semi-detached house than it would be for a townhouse. It's just a really interesting little community because, again, its proximity to the train, to everything that's around it, makes it that much more valuable. Whether it's dry cleaning places, whether it's a diner, delis, some retail shopping, it's all part of what I think that small, gives it that walk to town type feeling, and I think people like that.
A big contributor to the urban sprawl problem is the lack of adequate public transportation.
There's very limited rail transportation, so much of the reliance is on cars. Really, when you think about it as far as an infrastructure, you're condensing population into a small area, which then allows the transportation network to better serve that area than it would be having it sparsely developed over a larger area. As far as mass transit options, I mean, I think subway lines, it should be something that's in the equation. I think it should. We're the only borough that does not hold any subway station. Part of the problem is understanding what development is and how to best address it.
An intersection in the South Shore neighborhood of Great Kills is a prime example of this. Renovated and expanded in 2005, the New York Public Library in Great Kills could have served as a starting point for a pedestrian-friendly center. Instead, the library is oddly surrounded by large homes with a few small businesses down the street. With little exception, the area is all zoned for residential buildings. This could be a great stopping point for travelers and commuters since the train station is just 3 blocks away.
One of the things you have to look at is, are these town centers in fact self-sustaining? Is there enough walking population to handle and make these businesses work and thrive? And I don't believe that there is currently.
In particular, Staten Island seems to lack in the young professional demographic. Town centers would be an attractive option for career professionals in their 20s and 30s. The neighborhood of Great Kills could be developed far better for the surrounding community, including young professionals.
As you roll some tape and see the fronts of the stores, there's really no parking to handle any of the street traffic that many of these stores would rely on for typical customers. How does someone reach any of these real stores when there's just no parking or very limited parking? These stores have come and gone, failed and started consistently because of lack of parking. The problem is that the town itself was developed with the intention that most of the population would be walking to it, not driving to it. And I think that's the real problem, is that, you get these people who, they're not going to walk into town for a limited selection of stores. So what they typically do is they bypass the town center and go straight to the mall.
The businesses would profit from it because people would be eating here more often, they would be shopping here more often. They need to figure out how to keep their people here and keep us all happy. And in turn, the housing market will go up here, property will start, coming up, and maybe we can rebuild, and we can rebuild better than it was before.
One thing a city or town can't do is ever stop in terms of its real estate development opportunities, because they provide a tax base and a growing tax base for the services that people enjoy.
Though our borough has a lot of benefits for automobile owners, we could have the best of both worlds. Ease of driving and parking, along with pedestrian-friendly centers, particularly around train stations. Better public transit could enhance the Lone East Shore Railway, which could be a feature topic within itself. In the meantime, Staten Island could benefit greatly from an ideal balance of beautiful homes and neighborhood business districts. This is Hannah J., and this has been a feature presentation with realestatesiny.com.